Must not review Eraser this time. Must not review Eraser this time. Ah, screw it. Carmageddon. Here's a game for the depressed. Oh, sweet. Oh boy, it's Sophie reviews a game that was banned somewhere time. Controversy sells, and banning certain video games makes people interested in them more. Some countries ban them for sort of understandable reasons like violence, nudity, television depictions of certain minorities, or even any depictions of Nazism like Australia, Pakistan, and Germany, while others do it for stupid reasons. I mean, Argentina banned rape play, scratch that. I mean, Iran banned Infamous because the protagonist has superpowers, and that's haram to them. And Jordan banned Roblox for, of all things, depictions of nudity. I mean, no one's gonna be interested in Roblox being banned in some countries though. It's not just countries that get pissed though, it's also console manufacturers. There's been a history of games being censored to appease console makers, from BMX XXX removing nudity in the US version on the Xbox and PS2. GameCube is fine though, to any game receiving the dreaded AO rating from the ESRB, essentially the kiss of death, to Sony just outright demanding censorship towards third-party games with either raunchy sexual content of questionably aged characters, or QTEs in a totally necessarily disgusting thing happening in Martha's Dead. Even Heavy Rain would tell it to tone it down. So what do you do when a game is threatened with a ban? Well, you can just do nothing since it wasn't banned in the major markets, or if it is in one, you try changing stuff. Tone down the violence by changing the color of blood, or not show the bloody gore, remove any semblance of nudity or sexual content, or just not show a scene at all and tell the player they had to censor it to appease his government. That'll show them. Honestly, some of the stuff that got censored were intentionally added to stir up controversy. They are nothing more than shock value for marketing reasons, and Carmageddon is no exception. From the land that coined the term video nasty, Stainless Software was founded in 1994 in Newport, Isle of Wight. Their first project started out as a good old-fashioned demolition derby game, much like that futuristic Gnosis game. It was first called 3D Destruction Derby. Wonder why that's changed. Don't worry, Sales Curve came in to sign on the project, as long as it's a licensed game. SCI tried to secure the rights for Mad Max, but they couldn't find out who owned it. When they heard the news that there was gonna be a sequel to the Roger Corman-produced Death Race 2000, they tried to make the game around it until they get the rights. I'm sure nothing wrong will happen. Fuck! Screw it, make it an original game and retain the pet killing. And so, Carmageddon was released in June 1997 for MS-DOS and Windows. And of course, Germany and the UK were pissed about its depiction of real killing and were threatening it with a ban. So the first release there had the human pets changed to either robots or zombies. Yeah, that's better. Meanwhile, Brazil just banned the damn thing, while Australia is somehow fine with it, being released uncut with an M15 plus rating. Odd to see, but okay. Nevertheless, it garnered critical praise and became a cult classic, as well as ripe amount of media scrutiny. So let's see how it holds up today. Of course it still holds up, this is an Atari 2600 game. The box art for the US version is goofy to me. Oh gee, the guy is being run over, how shocking. Again, this is a case where the European box is better. Look at this guy. Look at the bloodthirsty glare in his eyes. Look at the sadistic smile, he's stunning. If that's not menacing, I don't know what is. It very much beats any cover that just has a neutral face or two just looking at you. Yeah, I have a hatred against these kinds of covers. It's the lazy sampling to the person standing or walking in front of you style of cover. If I want just ahead, I much prefer stuff like Dead or Alive 6, Galarians, and, well, this one. Because they have more than... Start off with an intro video with the psycho drivers getting ready to race and the pets escaping certain death, ending with them getting impatient and running over the flagman before the war to go. All coupled by the song Zero Signal by Fear Factory, which I'll get back to that. Here we go! We can either use the arrow keys or the mouse to select things, but the cursor moves slow, so don't. You can either be Maximilian Damage and his default Eagle, or Diana and their default Hawk. I'm sure that they won't cause any distress in the near future. Of course, I went with her and changed her name. Glad I can do that. There's 3 levels at the beginning, but I'm starting at Main Street in Bleak City, where a football game is held. We're off to a great start! Let's see what drivers I'm facing up against. Ah, good old Cutter. He takes great pleasure in causing pain, and seems curiously keen to receiving punishment in return. Oh hey, that's me. Here's Ivan and his monster Lada. Bet I'm gonna like him. Same with Screw Louie. Ooh, anarchists. Ooh, murderers too. Nope. Ah, she's a Nazi. I don't care if you're hot, you deserve to be punched. Here's Wanderlust. She reminds me of someone. Okay, Stimson, wow. And his vehicle's a front Rocco. He seems a friendly kind of guy, but appearances can deceive. And the way he guns that 4x4 long, you'd think he was on the run. So much for being subtle. Let's just start right away. I'm playing the 3DFX version, which was added after installing the Splat Pack, and it's not terrible. It has a charm even. It uses a mix of 3D for the environments and cars, and 2D for the pads, barrels, and other stuff that explode. Mind you, despite being released during the early onset of 3D accelerators, the original release only had software rendering, which was still a necessity for Rico PCs at the time, much like it having a DOS version coupled with a Windows version. Why is GOG selling only the DOS version is beyond me though. The colors look somewhat muted in most tracks, almost reminded me of Postal, released the same year as this one. Though in the Acid Ocean reprocessor levels, they look like the map in Hover 3D, coupled with the grey textures and the grey sky. The cars look great with their unique looks, and Mad Max / Death Race 2000 inspired mods. I mean, Carter looks like Dr. Frankenstein from that movie, doesn't he? The Rival's profile pics can be rather raunchy and insulting at times, but also adds to the charm of it. Same goes to the so-called Prat Cam, where you can see your driver react to the stuff going on in the race. You'd love to see it. The more I look at Max, the more he reminds me of Spanish actor Pepe Villuela. Oh man, look at that hair. You know what doesn't hold up? The frame rate. My god, it's abysmal. For a PC that runs Ultrakill decently enough, I expected Carmageddon to run smoothly with N-Glide. It can run at around 20 to 25 FPS at best. Other cases it can even dip below 10. I tried software rendering and oh god, it's really small. It runs smoother, but I'm not gonna do the entire video like that. Maybe playing with older hardware will fix it. Maybe playing the Windows version will fix it too, but I read it's unstable on modern systems, so I'm stuck with what I have. At least the sounds are great, quite the iconic soundscape with the screen from the pads, the drivers in the Prat Cam, the announcer, and even the bloody bits. Diana's screams and woos can get annoying fast, but the rest is top notch to say the least. Music is quite on point for this sort of game. Sure, there's only 7 of them, and the 4 tracks from League Row sound like something you dance with rather than handbang with. They'd fit at home in the Wipeout game, but the rest from Fear Factory are fucking awesome. Can't say more about it. Worth it. So you start the race and then you wonder, where's the position tally? Ah, see. This isn't a conventional racer, dear. Because the developers were sick and tired of them, they've decided to do something completely different. In their philosophy of, if it sounds fun, try it and do it. You actually have 3 ways to complete a race. You can either destroy every opponent's cars, kill every pet and animal in the place, or just complete laps by passing through checkpoints in order. Like the pussy-ass cunt you are. Welcome to the 90s, where attitudes change for the more violent, but let's not go there yet. I also talked about controls and yeesh! I know this was made in 1997, a year after the N64 popularized analog controls, but I kinda doubt this even supports that. So in my end, I'm using the keypad to control my car, and it is not a pleasant one. They feel heavy, and trying to make your car go straight is a difficult task for the keyboard. You'll fishtail very often after you're revered to kill another person, and it's frustrating. At least you get the flip, and this was months before Gran Turismo. It didn't even have flipping for another 13 years. The worst part is that you can't rebind the keys. There's only 4 control schemes, and that's a lot. None of them have walls for movement. You know what else is frustrating? Your opponents can be relentless. If you try fixing your car's position, someone might smash onto you and just keep pushing you, wasting precious time. I fucking hate Ivan. On the other hand, if you're trying to waste them all, it's gonna be a tedious task. I kept checking the map often to see where the other drivers are being far away from me, and sometimes after checking the map, they might be in a completely different place. And then there's the cops. They care less about arresting you and more about annoying and killing you. That's all they do! When you hear the sirens, best to drive away from them, because wasting them is a harder task without power-ups than the opponents. What might have been an annoyance is made worse by 2 factors. First is damage. Not only there's visual damage, there's also mechanical damage. Your steering can get fucked, your engine will make you slower, your ride will get worse, so forth, all thanks to either your opponents or you fighting with the controls. However, you can repair during the race by pressing backspace. Of course, it costs money, so try finishing the race with minimal damages and minimal repairs. Same goes for recovering after a flip out or splash into the ocean, that also costs money. It's easier said than done, unfortunately, and the second part is that you're on a timer. Fuck. However, there are ways to gain seconds, by killing people, hitting these green barrels which will either give you time or money, and hitting your opponents. Wasting them will give you a lot of time. And yes, in case you somehow forgot, you earn time and money by killing people. Not just that, but also shitting cows too. This isn't the first game to do so. Their phrase from 1976 was controversial for that same idea. Then again, controversy sells. Now with better graphics, it makes that game look like Donkey in comparison. And speaking of barrels, you have a bunch of them scattered around the maps. And the ones with a question mark give you a random power up. Or a power down if you're really unlucky. For a limited time, you might get frozen pets, engine power increase, free repairs, car bouncing, gravity manipulation, damage increase, and instant handbrake where you can pop your eyeballs out if you use it. Am my eye still in there? Speaking of instant, you also have instant repairs, instant body damage, fucking nothing. And one more thing, some opponents' cars can actually be stolen, so long as you're in the minimum rank required. When you waste someone with a steel warpy ride, there's a chance they'll fly upwards to the sky. It means you've earned it, and you can drive it in future races. Honestly, in the early races, it's best to stick with the Eagle/Hawk. A101's car is fragile, and Vlad's Fracture is, well, a dragster. Not recommended. There we go, I destroyed all their rides. Either that or I hit all the laps and checkpoints, that depends on me. Hit me with that giant ball like a ship. Now with the money you have, it's still not enough to buy upgrades, but when you have, you can buy stuff that increases your armor, engine, and offense. How much damage can your car sustain, how powerful can it get, and how easy can it damage others, simple as that. Though you get better upgrades as you progress further, and blimey is it a long list to go through. There is like exactly 36 levels to go through, most of them unlocked by moving up the rankings. To do that, you have to get a certain amount of credits you earn during your race. The cost of repair during the race of course deducts it. If you earn a lot of credits, you advance quicker, though in a harder difficulty it can take a while. On medium, the game incentivizes you to crash at the opponents and kill as much pets as you can for a long while. And as you rank up, the game will lock lower level tracks, preventing you from doing something. Back to the levels, they're saying a variety of environments, like the districts of Bleak City, the National Park with a fucking vertical loop, the Alpine Village with a sewer system, the industrial zones, the ocean drives, and the expansive mines outside and inside. They have its twists, turns, and gap jumps, but what they all have in common is that the tracks are fully explorable. No bozo to put you back on track unless you fall into the ocean. You can drive around the place without any limits, aside from the signs telling you the right way, and of course the timer. My kid self would have loved this! Too bad younger ex Sophie was too sensitized for it. But yeah, I don't think there's much point in completing as I'm reviewing it. I said forgetting I almost completed Burnout Free Phrase review. Let me briefly talk about the Splat Pack, and this time play as max damage. Much like any FPS expansion pack in the 90s, the Splat Pack is a separate campaign with new content. New cars, new tracks, and of course, new opponents. While still fun, the first time I tried it, I didn't like the verticality of some tracks. Makes wasting others more of a time waster as the map is just a satellite projection, so you never know exactly where the opponents are. At least I got to see Quake's Ranger in this place. Actually, more than one. They're all giants! Hey, that's not fair. It also has new music replaced the original, and I love it. They really sound like they should be in Test Drive Off-Road. Worst part, it's literally just 3 songs playing. I mean, you're better off replacing all of it and the mute aux with the base soundtrack and call it a day. Expansion packs and cheaper music production back in the day. Name a more iconic duo. So that was Carmageddon. Now, did this game make me into a violent psychopath? No, but I play one on TV. While it didn't age well in some aspects like the graphics and the frame rate in the 3DFX versions, it's an enjoyable and cathartic game nonetheless. Can get a little grindy, but that doesn't stop it from being fun. If you can even stomach through the choppy frame rate or the pixelated look of software rendering, give it a try. I'm sure your kids will love it. Wait, no, they'd rather play whatever's popular with them by the time you're watching this. I'm guessing Amnesia or some shit. Hey, stop! With the controversy and the popularity of the game, Stainless and SCI made the inevitable sequel a year later, Carpocalypse Now. Now everything is a 3D model and there's a lot more pets to kill. There has been changes to the core gameplay though. Now you can get power-ups you can use using Alt, if you want a more strategic way to complete a race. I find some of them useless like a Kangaroo 1, the Mines, and Oil Slicks. Those last two are more appropriate in Mario Kart than Carmageddon. And instead of having a lucky shot at stealing a car, you can just buy a car you wrecked after the race, no problem. Plus there's no ranking system as that's being replaced by groups, which have 3 races and 1 mission each. Complete them all and you can get to the next one. I think this is the better game, but critics somewhat disagree, with an 80% rating on game rankings compared to Common One's 90%. It got versions for the consoles and Game Boy Color, which were reviled to no end by critics, probably because you kill zombies instead of living humans, among other things. In 2000, SCI released TDR 2000, how clever. This one wasn't as well received as the first two, sadly. Developed by Taurus Games this time, this is the one game Stainless Software that owned it. And that is the last Carmageddon game for over a decade. During that hiatus, SCI published some games you might have heard of. The Conflict series, Richard Burns Rally, Futurama in Europe. Then they bought Eidos Interactive in 2005, renamed themselves to Eidos in 2008, and got bought by Square Enix in 2009, which meant Square owned Carmageddon for a while. The newly renamed Stainless Games, meanwhile, went back to making games in 2006 with some XBLA games like Lemmings but shit. Fear not, as in 2011 they bought back the rights to Carmageddon and announced they're making a new one, plus a port of the first game on iOS. After getting some funding through Kickstarter, Reincarnation was released in 2015 for PCs, and later got renamed to Max Damage, hey that's me, in 2016 when it got ported to consoles. And that ends the story of Carmageddon. And the landscape of racing games is unfortunately stagnant with shit that I reviewed previously. Sometimes I wish there was another combat-oriented driving game. Unfortunately these days, they barely get marketed well. There's WreckFest at least, which has content from the Carmageddon games, but what the fuck even is Destruction AllStars? Y'all heard this game? Does it even exist? If so, is it actually good? Does it fully utilize the power of the PS5? And does it incentivize me to buy the console? No! I was just asking.